The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. At that time, Jesus said to his disciples, "Watch, for you do not know on what day your Lord is coming. But know this, that if the householder had known in what part of the night the thief was coming, he would have watched and would not have let his house be broken into. Therefore, you must also stand ready, for the Son of Man is coming at an hour you do not expect." Who then is the faithful servant and wise steward, whom his master had set over his household, to give them their food at the proper time? Blessed is that servant, whom his master, when he comes, will find so doing. Truly I say to you, he will set him over all his possessions. But if that wicked servant says to himself, "My master is delaying," and begins to beat his fellow servants and eat and drink with the drunken, the master of that servant will come on a day when he does not expect him, and at an hour he does not know, and will punish him and put him with the hypocrites. There men will weep and gnash their teeth. The Gospel of the Lord. Good morning, dear friends. Many names that we bear today were actually transmitted for naming other children coming, not just because of the fancy of the name, but because of the purpose the name should serve in the child's life. I wish to present to you an authentic CWO woman, Saint Monica. You know, a lot of things have been said about parents, and I still stand very strong on that statement. Now, the outcome of a child's life depends heavily, and I dare assign 90% of that dependence to the parents, mothers especially. A child is lucky that has a knowledgeable and a spiritual mother. Go and find out. A mother that reads cannot possibly have a child that don't care about books. A mother that prays cannot possibly have a child that don't care about prayer. The only time that can happen is when the mother does not carry the child along in prayers. But it's still very, very much difficult, because as the child grows up, the child remembers how mommy fought her battles. You know, women are usually very powerless in the society. Now, how they manage to get to the extent that they get to is not just by luck or by convention. It is by hard work. In their powerlessness, in their seeming softness, in their oppressive enclave, they galvanize such spiritual powers that they are able to turn black to white and white to black. Now, when children grow and they confront such problems, they remember, even if their mothers don't carry them along then, that when their mothers faced huge problems like this, her knees kiss the ground in prayer. Those children eventually start having feedbacks from their mothers. Their mothers become their bishop and their priest. Their mothers become their Moses and their Esther and their Abraham. They don't need to go that far to find strength, because they saw that mommy conquered. And if mommy conquered, I can conquer too. But here we are looking at St. Monica, a Christian, married at the age of 20, very, very much young, oppressible, not having so much knowledge and experience of life. 20, like many of you women that got married at the age of 16, not having experience, not having foundation of their own. Their entire foundations depended on the man. Worst for her, she was married to a pagan at Tagaste. We are talking about North Africa here. You know, the pagans were extremely very violent. And they were resolute in their paganism. And that also formed the habits of the husband. And she bore 3 children for this man. Now, the kind of person the husband was caused her untold pains. Many of you women would have lots of tales to tell if you are given the opportunity ever. Some of which you have even gotten used to. Some of which you have forgotten. When a woman tells her tales, no book can actually contain, just as is said about the words of Christ. But then the suffering is not your definition. The suffering is not your identity. Indeed, the man you are married to is not your identity. Culturally, you bear his name, but he doesn't have authority over your identity. And this woman was to show that for 18 years. So we can say, when she was 38 years, she has succeeded in converting the husband. Soon after, the husband died. You know where somebody who claims to be a man shows all the muscles and all the physical power, and the woman, in her slim, soft nature, still controls him to where he is to be saved. You can't do that alone. It is the confidence of God's Spirit in you that makes you shut the mouth of the lion. A lot of women have actually lost footage. They are no longer standing, because when they were married, they stood on the embers of the husband's authority. You see, they say you have to obey your husbands in everything, except for things that are explicitly evil. Yes. But do you know something? Your husband cannot control what goes on inside of you. But a lot of women ensure that their husband controls what goes inside of them. So they sublet both their souls and their bodies under the authority of the husband. Your soul and your spirit ought to be under the authority of the one who created it, and not your husband. Your body and your culture must be submitted to your husband, because that is the mutual sharing that marriage authorizes. But your soul must be submitted to God, because you cannot love your husband as much as God loves your husband. So in order for you to be able to see clearly how to navigate the affairs of your family, you must be submissive to God in all things. Because your marriage was meant to have you become the channel through which God should save your husband. And vice versa too, husband to wife. Monica exemplified this model where she submitted. There were times when the husband would tell her not to go to church. She didn't quench the marriage. She had to submit, for peace to reign. But guess what? She became the church inside. Otherwise, how was she able to lead the husband to Christianity? A bitter and fierce pagan, as he was defined. Those pagans that were involved in the persecution of Christians, her own husband was part of them. Like father, like son. The man died being a Christian. It was time for her to face her son. St. Augustine became her preoccupation, and she was to go through this for 15 years. Now he went to Carthage for studies, and there he entered the group of thinkers that totally had a very wrong thought about life. St. Augustine was to be worse than his father, although he was a Christian by baptism but not Christian in practice, because every manner of evil was found in the hands of St. Augustine. He was even known in some brothel, in some prostitute den, and when he was passing, he was usually called and hailed by the prostitutes that are around. He was that bad, with his youthfulness and adding intelligence to it. When the devil handles the intelligence of a human being, those are the people called evil genius. St. Augustine made that notoriety. He was known for this. Monica tried in vain to persuade a visiting bishop to lead her son back to the truth. But the bishop told the woman, time was not ripe for it. You know, she was consoled by a particular statement the bishop told her. The bishop told Monica that it is impossible that the son of such tears should perish. Monica disturbed all the priests and all the bishops she knew to combat her son. I mean, for her to do that, she was already praying. At least it is prayers for your son. It is the wish for your son to be good that moves you to act. Here is a visiting bishop, which means she would have disturbed the incumbent bishop. Now, this is a visiting bishop that she went to meet. There was no one she couldn't meet because of her son. And I see many women who take giant strides, where people will not dare to enter the going because of children. They don't care. But it's so much of a disappointment that many women cannot even raise a finger to assist their children. Probably they don't even know what it means to actually bring a spirit into the world. Augustine decided to teach rhetoric, an intelligent man, and had gone to school, not just going to school, not school of these days. A school that you go to, you become a doctor of the course that you studied. Monica wanted to follow her son to the state where he was going to be teaching. Imagine that. Of course, yes, even I, Father Alphonsus, will do that. Why would my mom follow me to where I want to go? She will not start monitoring me. Augustine deceived her, and then he left. And then from Rome, he moved to Milan to ensure that the mother does not have a trace of him. And then he obtained professorship. Guess what? Monica traced him there. The moment Monica traced her son there, immediately she befriended the bishop, St. Ambrose. That is one man we would have to think about and read about. St. Ambrose was the bishop at that time. St. Ambrose, whose eloquence and holiness helped Augustine to come into the church on Easter Sunday of 387 AD. My son, I had but one object in life, and that was to see you to become a Catholic. That was after his baptism. After his baptism at Easter. Monica once said to St. Augustine this, that God has done more than I had dared to hope for, in that he has taught you to despise all that the world can offer in order to follow him. And then he says, bury my body anywhere you will. My body is not important. I have gained the greatest gift, that you are now set to be in the kingdom of the Most High, to represent God. But our parents today are supporting their children for Yahoo. In fact, you see where women are praying. I think some time ago in a particular village in Eastern Land, women gathered to be praying against all those who are disturbing their children's progress. And then the question was asked, what are your children doing? Children who are performing sacrifices, children who are killing other people remotely, children who embezzle people's funds and send them to early graves because of frustration. Somebody works for 30 years, 40 years, 45 years to acquire a fortune, and through computer and fraud, you snap everything the person has worked for years within some few seconds. And then you now gather, because they are now pursuing the children for fraud and all that, you now gather and start causing those who are pursuing your children. Many mothers are praying for Yahoo boys. Pastors are not helping matters. A lot of Pentecostal churches are filled today because there they pray for them to succeed in their illicit business. But here is a mother whose solemn goal was to ensure that the child does not miss heaven. And then he told her son, all I ask you to do is to remember me always on the altar of God. When Monica and her illustrious son reached Ostia, the port of Rome, to embark for a journey back home to Africa in Carthage, she died in his arms at the age of 56. You see, under the patronage of St. Monica, as one who knew well how to overcome evil with good, there was founded in the 19th century in Paris an association of Christian mothers for mutual prayers on behalf of wayward sons and husbands. Why can our CWO not do this? Why can our Christian mothers not do this? Instead of focus on how society will be good by tending to our children and praying for our husbands, they now dwell on political ideals, bringing different kind of wrapper according to different tenure of officers. Money has become the main point. I don't know how much prayers women galvanize. If the CWO in Nigeria are to really come together to pray, look, I tell you, this country and all her evil leaders would have been long overthrown. Put a woman in office today, she forgets she's a woman, and then she starts becoming slave of money. Look at all the women that had been in office. Their corruption have been unprecedented. We cannot even divide them, we cannot even separate them from the kind of corruption that the men themselves indulge in. But we have a challenge. If society is going to be good, fight for the new spirits that you are bringing into the world. You have authority over the spirit that is coming into the world because that spirit was enfleshed in your womb. The women should fight for women to become truthful. You occupy a special position in the world. Your womb is the replica of the womb of the earth. You throw a seed into the earth, it gives us food. That is what women are supposed to be. So we are not supposed to stand on the same irresponsibility as the men. And I've heard a lot of people say what is good for the goose is good for the gander. When the man fools himself, the woman also fools herself. Look, we don't have wombs. You have wombs. There is no man, no matter how great he is, that does not come forth from a woman. Evil spirits are seizing over women, and it's the reason why it will be very difficult to have a good society. You have not allowed the Blessed Virgin Mary to enter into you. The humility of the Blessed Virgin Mary, the power and the prayerfulness of the Blessed Virgin Mary is not getting into our CWO. CWO is becoming even much demonic in outcome. And we need to fight this. Well, if you don't like the truth, then you are not to be in the church. And if you don't like the truth, then you should be ready for extinction because that is something that must happen. We cannot cover the devil and think that the devil will be finding us good from inside. We'll have to rise. If women are not settled, the world is finished. Because on the bed, where we are supposed to calm the madness of the men, it will become war. In the kitchen, where we are supposed to prepare food for the survival of the species, it becomes war. Women are the last people that should have conceit, deceit, and evil in their minds. Because if that happens, we are finished. The greatest man on earth is sustained by a mother or a wife, never another man. And so who is actually greatest? We know we have Lucifer, the devil, but who is having more influence in possession? The queen of the coast, woman. Even when God wanted to save the world, he, as mighty as he is, couldn't still do without a woman's womb. Know where you are. Your physical self is far more spiritual than other physical beings. So do not look down on yourself. The oppression your husband met on you is not because you are not special. It's not because you are not valuable. It is because your husband is foolish. You take that seriously. Because he's a child. He doesn't have the maturity to understand what you are and who you are. But it is much disappointing if you, the woman, are the one that promotes this kind of ignorance. May God assist you to achieve the vocation for which we are created through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.